I never thought I would be telling this story, not as a mother, not as a wife, and certainly not as a survivor. If you are listening right now, I beg you, don't judge me too quickly. Because sometimes, the ones you raise with all your love, the ones you protect from the world, are the very ones who destroy you. Our son, Daniel. He was supposed to be our pride. Instead, he became the reason my husband and I ended up hanging between life and death. It all started that night. The house was too quiet. I remember hearing the refrigerator humming in the kitchen, the clock ticking on the wall. My husband, James, sat on the couch reading the newspaper. I was folding laundry when Daniel stormed into the room. His face was pale, but his eyes, they were burning with something I couldn't recognize. "Mom, Dad, we need to talk," he said, voice trembling, but not with fear, with anger. I glanced at James. He gave me that look, "Stay calm." "What's wrong, honey?" I asked gently. Daniel's lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. "You always ask what's wrong, but you never ask what you did wrong." His words sliced through me like a knife. My hands froze over the shirt I was folding. What do you mean, Daniel?" James asked, setting the paper aside. Daniel stepped closer. The way he was standing, the way he clenched his fists, it was as if he wasn't our boy anymore. He was a stranger. "You ruined my life," he snapped. "You think you're perfect parents, but all you've ever done is control me, lie to me, and keep me from what I deserve." My heart pounded. I wanted to hug him, to tell him he was wrong, but something inside me whispered, "Don't move." "Daniel, calm down," James said firmly. "We can talk this out." But Daniel shook his head violently. His breathing grew heavier. "No, talking is over." And then he said the words that will haunt me forever. "Tonight, you both die." I felt the floor vanish beneath me. My vision blurred. My son, my baby boy, was standing in front of me, telling me he was going to kill us. At first, I thought it was a sick joke. Maybe drugs. Maybe stress. But when I looked into his eyes, I saw no trace of the child I raised. No warmth. No hesitation. Just cold intent. James stood slowly, trying not to provoke him. "Daniel, listen to yourself. You don't mean this." "Oh, I mean every word," Daniel hissed. "And you'll believe me soon enough." He stormed out of the living room. I heard drawers slamming in the kitchen. My chest tightened with dread. "James," I whispered, "he's going to hurt us." James grabbed my hand. "Stay calm. Don't panic. Let's just see what he does." But inside, I already knew we weren't safe anymore. Daniel returned, holding something behind his back. His grin made my stomach twist. "What are you hiding?" James asked cautiously. Daniel slowly revealed it. A kitchen knife, gleaming under the ceiling light. I gasped. "Daniel, no, put that down." He tilted his head, almost amused by my fear. "You're scared? Good. You should be." And then he walked closer, step by step, until the knife was just inches away from James's chest. My heart screamed at me to do something, but my body was frozen. James raised his hands. "Son, if you love us at all, please stop this. You don't want to do this." Daniel's eyes narrowed. "Love? Don't you dare talk to me about love. You never loved me. You loved controlling me. You loved making me feel small. And now, I'm finally in control." That was the moment I realized our son had been planning this. This wasn't sudden anger. This wasn't teenage rebellion. This was something darker, something that had been festering inside him for years. The knife glistened as Daniel's hand trembled with rage. My breath caught in my throat. One wrong word, one wrong move, and it would all be over. And then, suddenly, he lowered the knife. But not because he changed his mind. No, he wanted to play with us. To make us believe we had a chance. He smirked. "I could end you now. But where's the fun in that?" He turned and walked toward the door. "Get your coats. We're going for a drive." Shock paralyzed me. "A drive?" I stammered. James's jaw tightened. "Daniel, please. You don't have to do this." Daniel waved the knife lazily in the air. "Do it. Or I'll make you bleed right here." I felt my legs shaking as I stood. My hands clutched the laundry tighter than ever. This was real. Our son was taking us somewhere. And wherever that was, it wasn't good. James whispered under his breath as we walked toward the door, "Stay calm. We'll find a way out. Just stay calm." But deep inside, we both knew we were being led straight into a nightmare. Outside, the night air was cold. The street was quiet, eerily silent. Daniel pointed to the car. "Get in." James hesitated. "Where are we going?" Daniel's grin widened. "You'll see." The drive was long. The road stretched into darkness. Daniel kept the knife in his lap, glancing at us through the rearview mirror. Every second felt like an eternity. I wanted to scream. I wanted to beg him to stop. But my instincts told me silence was survival. James reached for my hand. His touch was shaking. His eyes met mine, and without words, I understood this might be the last night of our lives. We drove for almost an hour. The city lights faded. The streets became narrower, lonelier. Until finally, Daniel pulled into a deserted mountain road. The headlights revealed jagged rocks, trees swaying in the cold wind, and a cliff edge that seemed to drop into endless darkness. My stomach twisted. No, this couldn't be real. Daniel turned off the engine. The silence was suffocating. "Get out," he ordered. James swallowed hard. "Daniel, please." "Out," he screamed, slamming the knife against the dashboard. We obeyed. My legs felt like they would give out beneath me. The wind bit against my skin as I stepped onto the rocky ground. Daniel pointed toward the cliff. "Walk." My throat closed. This was it. This was where it would end. James stepped forward, shielding me with his body. "Son, don't do this. Whatever you're feeling, we can fix it. Therapy, help, anything you want. Just don't throw your life away." Daniel's face twisted. "You don't get it, do you? This is me fixing my life. This is me taking control. No more lectures. No more rules. No more you." He raised the knife. My breath caught in my chest. And then he lunged. James shoved me aside, his arm catching Daniel's strike. The knife sliced through his sleeve, grazing his skin. James groaned but fought to grab the blade. "Run!" James shouted. But I couldn't move. My heart screamed at me to save my husband, to stop my son, but my body was rooted in shock. Daniel wrestled free and shoved James with all his strength. My husband stumbled backward, toward the cliff's edge. "No!" I screamed. James teetered dangerously close. The rocks crumbled beneath his feet. Daniel's grin stretched wider. One down. And then he turned toward me. Daniel lunged toward me with the knife, his face lit by the moonlight. I felt the edge of the cliff just behind me. My heart pounded so loud it drowned the wind. James was clawing at the rocks, barely hanging on. And in that split second, I realized either I fight back or I die. Daniel lunged at me, the knife glinting under the pale moonlight. The cliff's edge was just behind me, the abyss waiting to swallow me whole. James was still clinging desperately to the jagged rocks, his fingers scraping against the stone, his body trembling from the strain. "Daniel, stop!" I screamed, tears stinging my eyes. "I'm your mother." But that word, mother, meant nothing to him anymore. His expression was twisted with something darker than anger. This wasn't just rage. It was hatred. The knife came closer. I felt the icy wind whip against my face as I stumbled backward. My heel caught on a loose rock, and I nearly lost my balance. My arms flailed, trying to steady myself, but the edge was right there, just one more step, and I would fall into the darkness. "Mom," Daniel whispered coldly, "you should have thought of that before you ruined my life." He raised the knife again. And then, suddenly, James's voice tore through the night. "Pretend we're dead," he shouted, his voice raw with desperation. For a moment, I didn't understand. My mind was clouded by fear. But then, in that single second, I realized what he meant. If Daniel believed we were gone, maybe he would stop. Daniel lunged again, but I let out a piercing scream, clutching my chest as if I'd been stabbed. I staggered backward, letting my body go limp, and fell to the rocky ground. I forced my breath to slow, to become shallow and faint. I lay motionless, praying Daniel would believe it. At the same time, James loosened his grip on the rocks, letting himself slide down just out of sight, his body going limp as if he had fallen into the abyss. His groan echoed before disappearing into silence. Daniel froze. His chest heaved, the knife trembling in his hand. He stared at my still body, his expression flickering between triumph and uncertainty. Is it done?" he whispered to himself. He walked closer, nudging my shoulder with his foot. My heart pounded so violently I thought he would hear it, but I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Finally, Daniel let out a shaky laugh. Finally, they're gone. Both of them. No more chains. No more rules. His voice cracked, but his grin widened. I'm free. He turned, walked back toward the car, and drove off into the night believing he had killed us. As soon as the sound of the engine faded, I gasped for air. My body trembled violently, every nerve screaming with terror. James, I whispered hoarsely. From below the cliff, I heard a faint groan. I'm here. I crawled to the edge, peering down. James was clinging to a ledge a few feet below, his face pale, his arm bleeding from the earlier struggle. Hold on, I cried. Don't let go. I can't climb up, he groaned. The rocks are too slippery. I scanned the ground desperately, my hands fumbling for anything to help. My fingers wrapped around a long branch. I lowered it down toward him. Grab it. He reached, his hand trembling, blood dripping from his sleeve. For a terrifying moment, I thought he would miss. But finally, his fingers latched onto the branch. With every ounce of strength in my body, I pulled. My arms screamed in pain, my knees scraped against the rocks, but I didn't stop. Come on, James, please. I sobbed. And finally, with one last heave, he scrambled up over the edge, collapsing into my arms. We both lay there on the cold ground, gasping, broken, but alive. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The night was silent except for the sound of the wind and our ragged breaths. Then James whispered, he thinks we're dead. That's the only reason we're still alive. I nodded, tears streaming down my face. Our son, our baby, he tried to kill us. James's eyes were hollow. No, he didn't try. He planned. We knew we couldn't go home. Daniel would eventually return, and if he found us alive, he would finish what he started. We had to be smarter. We need to disappear, James said firmly. We can't go back to the house. Not yet. We have to make him believe it's real. But where do we go? I asked, my voice trembling. James looked down the mountain road, his jaw tight. Somewhere he'll never think to look. We stumbled through the darkness, our bodies weak, our hearts shattered. Hours passed before we reached a small town at the base of the mountain. The streets were quiet, the neon signs of a rundown motel flickering in the night. We checked in under false names, paying in cash. I cleaned James's wound in the tiny bathroom sink, my hands shaking as I wrapped it with torn pieces of a towel. Every sound outside made me flinch. Every car that passed made me fear Daniel had found us. As James lay on the bed, pale and exhausted, I sat by the window, staring into the night. My mind replayed everything over and over, the knife, the cliff, his grin. How had our son become this monster? What had we missed? The next morning, I turned on the motel's small TV, hoping to see news of us. A car crash, a missing persons report, something. But instead, there was silence. It was as if nothing had happened. As if we had already been erased. James sat up, his face grim. We can't stay here long. Daniel will move on. He'll take over the house, the accounts, everything. He'll live as if we never existed. And no one will question it, I whispered. Because they'll believe we're gone. For days, we hid. Every knock on the door made me tremble. Every unfamiliar face made my heart stop. But as the hours turned into days, a new fear began to grow inside me. What if Daniel came looking? What if he realized we had survived? What if he wasn't done? And then it happened. 3 nights later, as I was locking the motel door, I heard footsteps outside. Slow, heavy, deliberate. My blood froze. James grabbed my arm, pulling me back. We both held our breath, listening. The footsteps stopped right outside our door. And then a shadow passed across the window. "James," I whispered, my voice trembling. "It's him." The door handle rattled. My heart nearly stopped. "Mom." "Dad," Daniel's voice called softly, almost sing-song. "I know you're in there." Tears spilled down my cheeks. He had found us. James motioned for silence, his hand gripping mine so tightly it hurt. The door rattled again. Harder this time. "Come on," Daniel said, his voice darker now. "You didn't think you could fool me forever, did you?" And then, bang! The door shook violently. Daniel was trying to break in. "Run," James hissed. We scrambled out the back window, our bodies crashing against the cold ground outside. We didn't look back. We just ran through the alley, down the dark street, our breaths ragged, our hearts pounding like drums. Behind us, Daniel's laughter echoed. "You can't hide forever," he shouted. "I'll find you." That was the moment I knew. This wasn't just survival anymore. This was a war. Our son wasn't going to stop until one of us was gone. Forever. And as James and I disappeared into the night, broken and terrified, one thought burned in my mind. We might have to kill our own son before he kills us.